It has changed.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Chamber Lunch. Thank you for coming. If you will please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for those listening on the radio at home, this is the candidate forum, the Chamber of Commerce candidate forum for the Borough Assembly. There are three-year seats available. 6 people are running for those 3 seats. We have 5 candidates here today. One of our candidates, Matthew Merrill, had a work emergency and was unable to attend. Just as a reminder, the questions today have been submitted by members of the community, so thank you to everyone that gave us all the good ideas. And candidates, as a reminder, when you have 30 seconds left, you'll get a yellow card from the lovely Catherine Tatsuda in the rear, and when it is time to stop, you will get the orange card. For the radio listeners, if you could please say your name before you answer each and every question. So the first question, you'll have 2 minutes to answer. And I always try to make my questions just a little bit unusual, maybe something that you haven't heard at the other forums, because there have been a number of wonderful forums this year, and this is great to have really informed voters. So I'm going to start right here at this end. Why are you running for Borough Assembly? If elected, what will be your priorities? And if you are not elected, what will you personally do to advance initiatives that you feel are important to our community?
2 minutes for this first. 2 minutes.
Jeremy Bynum, running for the 3-year seat, obviously. Why am I running? I'm running because I really care about our community, and I think that I have a lot to offer the community as far as my background and experience, ability to make complicated decisions, and have good results for our community as a whole. So top priorities that I am looking forward at is with the COVID impacting our community and our businesses in our tourist season, I really want us to focus on future growth of diversity in business. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to do that through the borough to provide an ability for expansion and provide an environment that businesses can grow and flourish. So that's my number 1 priority on the borough. If I'm not elected, what will I do to continue being engaged? And that's do what I'm doing now, and that's communicating with my assembly members, communicating with the city council members, talking with community members to push forward my ideas about how we can do better in our community and continue to make sure that our community is a wonderful, successful place to live.
Hi, Trevor Shaw, running for one of the 3-year seats on the Borough Assembly. Why am I running? You know, it's kind of one of those unprecedented years. No one was expecting to have to deal with COVID, and now that's at the forefront of everyone's minds. I want to make sure that in the midst of all that, we don't lose sight on the prize. Make sure that just because we're in the rut of COVID, that we continue to make long-term plans for our future. I was blessed to grow up in a community like Ketchikan with opportunities around every corner, and now as my wife and I are starting our family, our son's 16 months old, I want to make sure that him and his friends, your kids, your grandkids, have those same opportunities 1,000 times over. And I'm pretty confident in stating that I think Ketchikan is the best equipped community in the entire state to not only survive the situation at hand, but to thrive in the aftermath. And it's because we are a resilient and resourceful community because of the people who live here. And so we find our success in the creativity and compassion of the people in Ketchikan. I've seen that firsthand, the quality of life that comes with that, the innovation and creativity that our community is known for throughout the state, and I just want to make sure we amplify that, protect that, and continue to work towards Jeremy said it, talking about a strong, diverse economy, and as a small business owner, that's very important to me as Like I said, as father of a young child, that's very important to me. And Ketchikan means something to each of us, and it means something different to each of us. And with COVID going on, I just want to make sure that I have the opportunity to get to continue knowing my community and protecting what Ketchikan means for each and every one of us. Thank you.
Okay, I get it. I've said at this table before, it can be a little nerve-wracking. Remember, there are two parts to the question, not to call you out there. Two parts to the question.
AJ Pierce, and I'm 4th generation Ketchikanite. And I'm rerunning in these uncertain times because it's important to protect and preserve the culture and integrity of our community. I'm committed to continue working in ways of affordable housing solutions by moving mere conversation into action. Being a sound steward of taxpayer dollars and linking arms in support of our education system with the school district and with UAS is very important to me. And to continue to apply those viable solutions to self-sustainability. There's a lot of hard work that's ahead of us, each and every one of us, and every elected official that is about to come into these seats. And I believe that Ketchikan deserves elected officials willing to roll up their sleeves and to work together with all of our elected officials. And I vow to continue serving in that capacity if you so choose to elect me. If you choose not to elect me, I won't change. I am who I am. Before I ran for Borough Assembly, I am more enriched in being a Borough Assembly member, and if you choose not to re-elect me, I'll still continue those works. I have great connections and networking abilities, and I believe that just because I'm not holding a seat, it is still my duty as a community member to represent the growth. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sheen Davis, and I'm here to help. I can talk for about 20 minutes on a paperclip, but talking for 2 minutes about me and why I'm running for assembly, it's a little bit different story. Why? Well, a lot of people in the community asked me to run. They said I'd be a good candidate because I know the service areas real well and know how the borough interactions with the public and staff. So I thought, okay, yeah, I'll give it another try. It'd be cool. If I'm elected, I guess my major topic would be safety. Now, you think, okay, safety is going to cost money, that sort of thing. Well, in my experience, it ends up paying. So that's going to be the big one for me. And if I'm not elected, it's going to be safety, because I still believe that it's an area that can give really good benefits to the community. It can be cheaper for insurance, better for employees.
I'm Judith McQuarrie. I was on the assembly year before last, and my husband said, honey, we're going to be doing a lot of traveling. You aren't going to be here, so you probably shouldn't run again. And I believed him. This year, when a friend said, why don't you run for assembly? I said, I talked it over, and he said, you know, we're not going anywhere anytime soon. So I'm running for assembly again. I thoroughly enjoyed my 3 years on the assembly. It feels really good to be part of helping our community and being a conduit for people's ideas into their government. One of the things that I have always prided myself on is being someone who makes connections, helping people connect with folks in the government, helping people who don't know where to start get an idea of a place to begin. And if I'm not elected, life will go on and things will be fine.
Thank you. All right, so we'll start the next question with Mr. Shaw.
Can I just refresh, Judith? Yellow is halfway.
Oh.
This one is end, okay?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I just want you to make sure you know what that means, okay?
You actually had more time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is probably an expected question, but might have an unexpected answer given these times. How do you plan on balancing the budget given imminent sales tax shortfalls, and other budgetary constraints facing our community.
This one's a minute, right, Catherine?
Yes,
Yikes.
say your name.
So, Trevor, Shaw, how do you plan to balance the budget? Well, it's not going to be the 7 of us and the mayor sitting up at the assembly table that are going to have the solutions to all of that. It's going to take us working together as a community, making sure we do our collective brainstorming and exercise our creativity through collaboration to come up with a successful solution to the budget, and doing that without raising taxes through the roof, and also without sacrificing essential services and our quality of life. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a fan of tax and spend budgeting, but I'm also not in favor of trash and slash budgeting either. And so we have to figure out the balance between the two, and that's going to take all of us, and it's certainly not going to be easy. And I'll work to do that, whether I'm on the assembly or just a little citizen. So thank you.
AJ Pierce. And I believe that we are probably looking at one of the toughest budgets coming down the pipeline that we probably have seen in decades. There is some grave concern on the pushback from the state in regards to school bond debt reimbursement, in regards to PERS and TERS coverage, and in regards to pass-through taxes. I feel like in the next 8 to 12 months, it's extremely important to look at what's going on with the school budget, because what the school's budget is doing directly reflects on what we as the Borough Assembly do. We are currently facing about $1 million in deficit in funding the local contribution, and that's extremely concerning to me. I think education is number one. And how we're going to do that, well, I think that our biggest asset is land. I think that our biggest asset is land, and so we can work to see what that looks like and getting that on tax rolls. Thank you.
A minute's tough.
It is tough.
Did you take a slot of my time? My name's Sheen Davis. Budget, yeah, it's going to be a tough budget year next year. There's going to be 7 very, very unpopular individuals on that assembly. And all I can say is the borough manager is proactive. The fire departments for the borough have listened, and they are already ready. And I think the borough could take a model from them in their preparation of a kind of a lean year for 2021, 2022.
Thank you. Judith McQuarrie. I'm also anticipating a pretty tough year budget-wise. And the good news is we have really strong staff at the borough. The last time we needed to cut the budget, the borough manager talked to all of the department heads and said, we really need to cut the budget, and by golly, everybody stepped up and did their fair share. I am expecting that we're going to be doing that again. I'm with AJ. The most important thing in any community is the school district. You don't attract new business or retain people if the school district is not strong and healthy. And I don't have all the answers for how we're going to do it. I'm worried, and I'll probably stay worried until after we fix the budget. Thank you.
So we'll try to make it real quick here in 1 minute. We just have to understand that when we're talking about the budget, the number one thing that the assembly will do is set priorities for staff. And, one of the things that we need to do is we need to ensure that we're instructing staff to bring forward a budget plan that's protecting employees. We need to find out exactly how long our reserves will be able to be utilized for this short period of time where we're struggling. I have hope that in the future we're going to rebound, so that's a good thing. We also want to ensure what our priorities are for deferment. So we're going to have to work really close with the staff to ensure that we're protecting employees, that we're restructuring deferment if we have to, and then utilizing our reserves along with trying to promote growth. Jeremy Bynum.
Okay, the next question will start with AJ Pierce. How do you envision diversifying our economy given our current economic state, and how would you help small businesses to survive?
AJ Pierce, what a dynamic question in these times. Looking at diversity, I do know that this community is one of the richest in rare earth minerals, and I do know that it's pivotal to national security. Now, I've spoken out against a particular location in processing the plant, but I do think that it is advantageous for us to look at mining rare earth minerals in preserving our natural resources, protecting our fish, and really being able to look at what that looks like for creating jobs and a long-term solution for this community. And small businesses, as a small business owner, who is facing uncertain times and financial crunches, I think that it's important to cross-promote small businesses. And we do some of that, but I think we should do a little bit more. A minute's not enough.
Hello, Sheen Davis. I guess the first part of the question would be diversity with some businesses. I've heard different people bring different ideas to me, and I guess one of them would be a hemp, not pot. It would be hemp, and maybe an assembly plant for U.S. goods. I've heard of that. Those are all great ideas, and I'd be really interested in some of the ideas that the chamber had too. As far as hard times with economics, it's tough. The small business owner is basically pushed aside for the big business, big stores, big chain stores, and of course there's the online stuff. I don't have the answers. I have more questions than I do answers of you guys. So that's where I'm going to leave that.
I'll turn it off for you.
Thank you. That's very kind. Judith McQuarrie. Diversity in our economy. These are ideas that mostly will be coming from the public. I don't think that those of us on the assembly have all the good ideas. I think it takes a whole community to have good ideas. I've heard an idea from a dear friend of mine who thinks that we need to establish a recycling facility on Gravina Island, and that we should take in recycling from all of Southeast Alaska. It's an idea that ought to be explored. I don't know that it's practical, but it might be. Other things, I think the best thing the borough can do is get out of the way. Make sure that our policies and procedures are welcoming for new business opportunities, and that Ketchikan is, as they say, open for business. So that's, okay. Thank you.
Sure. Repeating the question, how do you envision diversifying our economy given our current economic state, and how would you help small businesses to survive?
So it's a big question for a minute. So the number one thing that we have to do as a borough is we have to create an environment for to be business friendly. I think that we got to bring forward pro-growth. We got to bring forward plans and look at our processes to be pro-growth. We also have to work with businesses to educate them on the processes within the borough to make it easier for them to develop their businesses and be successful in their businesses. That's the number one complaint I hear about small businesses within the city and within the borough is their ability to be able to communicate with the borough through processes. So I think an education process there is important. And then we also want to try to focus on production-based businesses versus consumer-based businesses. Production-based businesses are what's going to cause growth in our community and cause wealth in our community.
Trevor Shaw, there's a lot of opportunity for diversification, from remote workers to manufacturing and production opportunities to alternative energy and kind of everything in between. And so, but I've long said that there's nothing sacred in government, and to turn that a little bit, there's also no perfect government idea either. It's going to take all of us throughout the community, the small business owners, the nonprofits, kind of everyone in between coming together and saying, all right, how are we going to successfully diversify our economy in a way that's impactful and meaningful? And so there's a lot that goes into that. As a small business owner, that's something that's very important to me, and this being the community that I was raised in, I want to protect what we've had and make sure that we can continue to grow that moving forward. The borough should exist to foster growth and success at all levels, and so from our kids in the classroom to our small businesses. I'd like to take a look at what we could potentially do to make our CARES Act funds stretch a little bit further for business development programs and, helping businesses plan for the long term.
Okay, the next question, we'll start with Shane. Many communities around the state are facing a reduced school enrollment. If this happens in Ketchikan to a greater degree, what do you propose to fill the gap in state funding, given the fact that the borough previously enacted kind of a hard stop funding measure, which they can add to, but which not only ensures stable school funding moving forward, given that it may fall short? Would you like me to repeat that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So school funding is the big topic. It's something that the residents of Ketchikan just don't give in at. They want to fund schools. They're for schools. They want the kids to be at school, and they're willing to pay for it. If the taxpayers are willing to pay for it, I'm not going to stand in somebody's way. But of course, that would mean an increase if the funding is decreased because of school enrollment. I know that we've had a rise in the homeschool programs for Ketchikan area, which is taking kids out of the schools. So I'm going to do whatever I can to keep the schools funded.
Judith McQuarrie. One of the things that we need to remember is we have an elected school board, and the first place that we need to be talking about school funding and plans for if we need to make changes rests with the school board. The borough, our job is to enable the school board to have decent funding. And I would expect that the school board is going to have all kinds of ideas about how we should go about doing this, and then it is the borough assembly's job to make sure, do our very best to make sure to balance the taxes that we need to raise to fund the schools with the needs of our community.
Jeremy Bynum. First off, I think that when we talk about school funding, one of the things that's important to the community is good quality education. And I think that we're willing to pay for whatever education we require. So it's about communication. Low enrollments, I think, has a big part. COVID is a big responsibility for that, and I think that parents are wanting to keep their kids at home because there's uncertainty in what we're doing in our school system. So I think having a better open forum about consistency, about what the schools are actually doing, would give some confidence in the residents to be able to send their kids to school, and that will help address that particular issue of lower enrollment. And I think communicating and having a good open conversation with the school board is where we start to do that. Jeremy Bynum.
Trevor Shaw, I've long said that education is job one for the borough, and it's important to remember that the Mandatory Borough Act that actually created the Ketchikan Gateway Borough, the primary reason behind it was for being able to establish a locally governed and funded school district, and I think it's important to remember our responsibility in that. And so my proudest achievement from my time on the school board was working with the borough to create the local education fund, which provided a local formula funding method and system that provides predictability and sustainability for the school district. What's important to remember with With declining student enrollment, as that also moves the cap. The cap for education funding decreases based on lower student numbers. So at some point we'll reach the cap, and then from there it's the borough's responsibility to figure out, okay, how are we going to be able to continue setting aside more funding for the long term when student enrollment increases again. And so that's a conversation we were able to have in creating the local education fund, and I want to be able to do it again.
AJ Pierce. In the conversation of the local education fund, what two driving items into that fund is 100% of the local property tax goes into that fund, as well as we just about last year appropriated 100% of tobacco tax into that fund. It's still not enough. And so when we look at funding sources, we want to look at solutions that don't put the burden on taxpayers any more than we already have. And so again, I think that we should look at getting more more land on the tax rolls, more land in the hands of private folks, and looking to the state as good stewards of that land for more of it, so that it can contribute to the bottom line without raising the mill rate, without raising any additional taxes. And we know that assessments follow inflation, and so that's out of our control. And so what is in our control is trying to mitigate taxes. A minute's not enough.
Okay, if the 2021 cruise ship season doesn't happen, how do you envision the borough having a role in somehow invigorating our local economy?
Can we have 2 minutes?
You know what, we have the time. I'll give you 2 for that one. Thank you.
I don't expect the 2021 cruise ship season to be very robust. I think we are facing at least 2 years of not very much cruise ship activity. Even if the cruise ships get it all together and they can assure people that it's perfectly safe to cruise, I think that there are a lot of people who are going to say, well, maybe next year, maybe not this year. What the borough can do to improve the economy in the face of another terrible cruise ship season, I think, again, we can encourage business. We can, I like the idea of seeing if we can't stretch our COVID money a little bit farther, but I don't know that we'll be able to do that. A lot of these things are actually not in the control of the borough. We're a local government. We don't make a whole bunch of those great big rules for everybody. And what we can do is probably going to be a little bit limited. Stay out of the way, encourage, create opportunity where we can. But honest to goodness, the borough has not had a real good track record in promoting particular businesses. And I would not encourage us to get back into that arena.
Jeremy Bynum. You know, looking at 2021, we see discussions about what's going to happen with the cruise ships. And from what I've seen so far, even if we do have sailings, passengers being able to leave the ships and come into our town and spend money is going to be restricted based on what plans are being currently submitted to the CDC. So they're indicating that passengers will only be able to leave the ships for shore excursions that are booked through the ships. So that creates quite a problem for our community when we're trying to get those tax dollars being spent in our community. So the question is going to be for the government, whether it's the city government or the borough government, to say what kind of plan are we going to put in place to be able to encourage people to be able to come to town through the legal process of the cruise ship plan. So that's one thing we're really going to have to look at. The second thing that we need to look at is how do we prevent us from being in this scenario again in the future? What kind of reserves do we have to build in place? What kind of budgeting process do we have to review to ensure that We're not going to be depending just on this year's income or next year's income to get by. So we might have to really evaluate whether or not we want to look at a more long-term appropriations process for how we fund our government and our employees. The other thing that we need to do is, again, look at expanding opportunities for business within our community to help give us a different funding stream. So those are the things that I think that we really got to think about. It's going to be a big conversation we're going to have with our community members, with the industry, with our business partners on how we can promote additional growth and continue to use the assets we have available to us.
So I believe the essential function of local government is to protect people's lives, livelihood, property, and individual rights. And so not dictate it, not manage it, but protect it. And that's what we're talking about doing. Cruise ships will eventually come back, and actually the borough has enough reserves. If there was not a dime of sales tax in 2021, we could eat that. I would hate to see that be the scenario, and gosh darn, there's a lot of other things we're going to be worrying about if that happens to be the case. So what can we do to protect our community if there are no cruise ships next year? You know, Ketchikan as a destination is still attractive. I want to see what we can do in working with KVB, the city, Chamber of Commerce, and being able to attract independent travelers, because that's something we can have a lot more control over. That's something we can spend more direct time, energy, and focusing on the health and safety aspects of that too, because that's very important, because the only way COVID is coming into Ketchikan is if it walks off a plane or a boat, pure plain and simple. And so we have to look at all of those things with the anticipation that, all right, it's eventually going to come back, not lose sight of the well-laid plans that we have for the future, fill in the gaps where necessary, and get out of the way where necessary too. Like Judith said it best, the borough doesn't have a really good track record of picking winners and losers, but that's also not our role. Our role is to promote prosperity and success at all levels, fair playing field. If it's good for one in government, it must be good for all. And so also that to say we have to figure out how to make the pie bigger without burning out the baker either. And that's going to take a lot of work, and that's not decisions that are going to be decided by the 7 people and the mayor sitting at the assembly table. It's going to take all of us working together, and I hope we can do that.
Can you repeat the question, please? Yes, thank you.
Okay, again, the question is, if the 2021 cruise ship season doesn't happen, what would the borough's role be in invigorating our local economy?
Thank you. AJ Pierce. You know, we don't know if the 2021 cruise ship season will happen. Unfortunately, at this point in time, we normally know what our numbers are going to look like by now, and we have no idea what they look like, even into 2022. And looking at Southeast Conference that we've just recently had in the past couple of days, you know, the state's outlook is that we possibly might even have a rebound of the tourist industry until 2025. So I think it's important to look at what we're going to do now for the future. We are already facing about 40% down in sales tax, and you know I hear some conversation about reserves and that will get us by, but I beg to differ. Our reserves, we have about $11 million, and with no additional funds coming in, that gives us 1 year of operation. That's not enough. We have $10 million in the general fund, and that's still not enough. So looking at the lack of tourists coming to the community, I think that we need to link arms and fortify as local businesses on how to support each other without looking at the tourist industry. Thank you.
Sheen Davis. At first, I guess I thought that the next cruise ship season was quite a ways away, but it's not. I'm sitting here listening to the other responses, and I'm thinking, okay, that could be like really soon. The time seems to be flying. We don't know. everything is kind of up in the air until the first of the year when we start seeing if the cruise ships are actually going to sail into here. I was kind of hoping the Star Trek one would, but it's not. And I guess a work session in January and February is when this is going to be important for all of you to give your input and attend and, help us out. The other way we can improve would be to increase or improve our human rights score. Currently, Ketchikan is a 0 out of 100. Anchorage is a 90 out of 100. A lot of people look at that human rights score and they'll look to see if Ketchikan is a friendly place to attend with them and their partners or them and their wives or husbands. So we can improve there. Any questions? Okay.
Thank you for helping me out. Since we don't have all 6 candidates, this isn't working out just as neatly as it did last week. Okay, so here's your soft skill set question of the day. What's your ultimate vision for Ketchikan's future? What obstacles do you think we face other than the economy? And how do you think you would personally be able to assist in being a positive influence on the Borough Assembly? And I'll give you 2 minutes. Okay, so what is your ultimate vision for Ketchikan's future? What kind of obstacles do you think that we face in that, other than the economy, okay? And how do you think you would personally be able to assist in being a positive influence on the Borough Assembly? 2 minutes.
Jeremy Bynum. So my vision for our community is to have a robust, thriving economy here year-round that isn't solely dependent on tourism. Tourism is an important component of what we have here, and when our summer months roll around, we want to make sure that we have the ability to bring those tourists here, show them a great town, the great town of Ketchikan, and how beautiful Alaska is and how friendly our community is. But when that tourist season is over, my vision is that we still have other things to offer our community, Alaska, and the country. And that would be other business opportunities. So that's my vision. I also have a vision of having, good schools, clean streets, and friendly people, and a place that we love to say, that, wow, that is a place to go. Obstacles. Obstacles is going to be about communicating, and how do we communicate that vision and then actually execute it. So we can talk all day long about what a vision would look like, but putting in, providing the tools from just a borough perspective isn't enough. We need to have good communication with our city partner at the with the city, and be able to work with them to come up with planning and ideas that translate between the borough and the city. And then communicating between city residents and borough residents about how important that vision is and how we work together to accomplishment. And how will I do that? I'll do that by trying to develop good communication skills, creating alliances with businesses, creating alliances with our community members, and having an open ear, open door, and listening to what their visions are. Because it's not just my vision, it's about the vision of our community members.
Ultimate vision for Ketchikan. So, Trevor Shaw, thank you. And that was the good Amanda Pierce reminding me to say my name. So, ultimate vision for Ketchikan. People walking into this town and can't imagine themselves anywhere else, not because of the beautiful environment, but because of a diverse year-round economy, great schools, supporting loving nonprofits, and everything that fills in the gap in between. And people who are like, I would fit in here because the community members here are good stewards, resilient stewards of the quality of life and the treasure that we have that we all get to call home. And without going into too much detail, ultimately a consolidated government where we don't see any increase in taxes and we see more efficiency in how government functions. How we get there, I can't tell you, but that is part of my vision. And so I've been going to Borough Assembly meetings since I was 15 years old. I actually went to my first date. I made my date go with me to an assembly meeting because I was working with Mayor Kiefer on a proclamation. And so this is meaningful work. This is rewarding work. This is the work that happens on the ground that is going to have the most impact on our lives and our children's lives. And so I grew up in this community. I love it here, and I want to just make sure that, like I said, not only do we protect that, but how do we continue to build on that in a way that we're able to preserve what Ketchikan means to each and every one of us and lay that foundation and groundwork for the next generation. There's lots of obstacles that come with that. From COVID to the Alaska State budget crisis to protecting our pristine environment while still encouraging resource development. And again, it's going to take all of us working together to make that happen, and I think we can do it. These are unprecedented times. What better time to get it done?
Can you repeat the question? Yes. Thank you.
What is your ultimate vision for Ketchikan's future? What obstacles do you think we face, other than the economy? And how do you think you would personally be able to assist in being a positive influence on the Borough Assembly?
Thank you. AJ Pierce. What a diverse question. So my vision for the community is self-sustainability. Not to be of doom and gloom, but I often think about what if the barge stops coming? And I think that that's a real question that we should ask ourselves. We are in uncertain times as a nation, and I think that it's very important for us to act now. One of the things that I like to use as a guidepost is the Chinese proverb, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, but the second best time is now. And we need to be looking at now. What are we going to be doing in 5 years? In 5 years is not good enough. And what I envision is being able to connect with our nonprofits in a way that is sustainable and harbors growth. I'd like to see more action in community gardens. I'd like to see more action in tiny homes and affordable housing. I think that can be done in a multifaceted way. I envision using land on Gravina. We're kind of blocked up here on Ketchikan as far as development is concerned, but we have an island that we can explore on that we haven't done. And I'm encouraging that. So, there's so many different avenues that we can take right now, and I think it takes everybody's skin in the game to make those decisions. It's not just the Borough Assembly. It's not just the City Council. It's all of us. And so having those deeper conversations and moving just those mere conversations into action is what is going to drive us forward. Thank you.
Okay, one more time. I'll read the thesis question one more time. What is your ultimate vision for Ketchikan's future? What obstacles do you think we face, other than the economy? And how do you think you would personally be able to assist in being a positive influence on the Borough Assembly?
Okay, I think I got it. Okay, the vision for Ketchikan, it might be more of a dream, but 40 years ago, I used to be able to walk through the streets of Ketchikan, and if I did anything, by the time I got home, my parents knew, and so did their neighbors and their neighbors, and everybody watched out for everybody. I kind of like to see that again. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe it's more of a dream than a vision, but I would hope that'd be for my grandkids, because you can certainly bet I'd like anybody calling on them. And vision for the future, I guess, was the question. Was that right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Vision for the future, diversity. My dad always said that, whatever you work at, you ought to have something to fall back on, and I started as a firefighter and got carpentry skills and a little instructor stuff. But, I always had something to fall back on just in case they didn't need firemen anymore. So I guess that's a big thing. Benefits from me being on the assembly by myself, not. It's going to take collaboration of everybody. I mean, not just the borough assembly members, not just the city. It's going to take everybody, getting along and trying to figure out what's best for this little town, which is a sweet little town. Okay.
Judith McQuarrie. Golly, Ketchikan as utopia. I love that idea. Chicken in every pot, happy dog in every backyard. No, honestly, I think that Ketchikan is a place where individuals can reach their full potential. I've seen that with my children, neighbor children, other people who've moved to town. Opportunities in Ketchikan abound, and I want to see that continue. In my life, I would never have been on the radio if it hadn't been for KRBD. I would never have been on television if it wasn't for KPU. So many things that are just wonderful about Ketchikan. And I want to see us preserve those wonderful opportunities for people. Without the economy, there's not much, but I think culturally, we have such a rich culture in Ketchikan. Native culture, Filipino culture, Anglo culture, all kinds of cultures, and we share that, and that's a wonderful and marvelous thing that we do. Obstacles, there's always obstacles, and they're overcome one at a time.
Thank you. This will be the last question, for which you'll have 2 minutes. This is kind of the wild card question. Yes, welcome to Chamber Lunch Trivia. No. Okay, could you briefly share with us one thing that's important to you that maybe wasn't addressed today? And then tell us one thing that people may not know about you personally.
First again? That's okay, I don't mind blazing a trail here. So, Jeremy Bynum.
Trailblazer.
So important to me, I think that, we have a lot of talk going on about all the good things that we want to do, the visions we have. But one of the things that we need to understand is that we've got a lot of hard work ahead of us. And it's going to be important to me to understand the issues that are facing us and to roll up my sleeves and work hard to come up with options that are with the impacts and understand how they're going to affect us. Take action on those options, evaluate the outcomes, and then listen. It's going to be important to listen to the public and the community about how those actions are affecting their lives. So that's what's going to be important to me, is taking the time to understand the issues that are ahead of us, because there's going to be a lot of difficult ones. Now, something that you might not know about me, man, I don't know. That's a tough one.
NASCAR drivers?
No. I love basketball, officiating basketball, getting out there on the basketball court as an official, and I love it when it's, you're down to the last second in the game, the pressure's on the players, and everybody is just railing on you. And, I love being under those pressure situations where you got to take a step and take a breath and say, you better make a right decision here or else, right? And so I thrive in those kinds of conditions, and I really do love that. So that's something that you might not know about me.
Trevor Shaw, next to the Trailblazer. So, to me, there's nothing more solemn than being elected to serve the community that you grew up in. And I had the opportunity to serve on the school board starting when I was a high school senior, and was on the school board for 5 years, and we got some really good things done. It was also, towards the end, a bit of a tumultuous time, and there was controversy, and I think in public service you have to take both. You have to be willing to accept both. You have to be willing to find the moments of growth and learning in every situation, and take that and apply it to how you move forward. I love public service. I've always said that people matter most, and the other thing that I mention a lot in public service is don't hurt people and don't take their stuff. And so that's kind of my approach to governance. I think it takes, sound and balanced policy is built through a robust public process that includes and builds off of the perspectives of many. And that's going to be of paramount importance moving forward in the times that we find ourselves in. To use a quote that I've been using a lot lately is, I may not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. And that's very important to me. It's going to take all of us working together, putting out our ideas and our possible solutions, finding the middle ground, making sure that our solutions that we craft are meaningful and impactful for the entire community, because that's going to be the only way we succeed. We can't cut our nose to spite our face. So I want to make sure that that's kind of the approach that we take going into not only the next 3 years, but just moving forward in general. Something you might not know about me, oh, there it is. There's not much. I've been in public office since I was 18. There's not much.
Can you repeat the question for clarity, please? Thank you.
Share with us one thing that's important to you that may not have been addressed today, and then tell us one thing people may not know about you personally.
Thank you, AJ Pierce. One thing that might not have been addressed today. Well, one thing that you might not know about me is that I have played piano by ear since I was 6 years old. I love teaching. I love sharing knowledge. And that'll tie in, thank you, to my next one. And I think that it's important as elected officials to be very transparent, to be honest on who you are as a person and what you represent. And I believe that it's extremely important to connect with the community in all different levels. It's very important to talk to the small business owner, the large business owner, the corporations, the nonprofits. You need to stay connected as an elected official and not just be a seat warmer. It takes a lot of work into the night. There's been many nights that I have been up until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning doing research, looking at the history. Why are we where we are today? What is the reasonings why we're making these decisions now? I think it's very important to connect with every sector of the community and not become biased and stay well-rounded. Thank you.
Okay, I think I got this. Things that are important to me, the vote, people voting. I think that's very important to me. You can move mountains with your vote. And you can organize a group of individuals, like they did back east, and abolish your entire city government with the vote. I mean, it's very, very powerful. So please, I ask all of you, all the viewers, everybody on the radio, oh, my name's Sheen Davis, everybody on the radio to go out and vote. Even if it's not for me, go and vote. Vote for somebody. It's very, very important. Something you might not know about me. Okay, so for the past 30, I might have to take my shoes off. For the past 36 years, my spouse has made my lunch every day I work, and she has put a note in there every day. Totally my soulmate. That's it.
Let's go. Judith McQuarrie. One of the things that we haven't mentioned here today that I feel really strongly about, and it's one of the reasons why I ran the last time I ran, every person who lives on this island is a citizen of the Ketchikan Gateway Borough. There are citizens of the Ketchikan Gateway Borough who are also citizens of the city of Ketchikan or the city of Saxman, but the borough is the overarching piece of government that everybody is a part of. And I think that sometimes that gets forgotten. Sometimes people feel like, oh, I'm a city resident, I don't care what the borough does, or vice versa. And I don't think that that's true. I am a proponent of consolidation. Not that we've had that come up recently, but it's come up many times in the past. And so those are the things that are very important to me. Something that you all don't know about me, I hold a statewide powerlifting record. And when you're the only person in your age and weight class, you can do that too.
I always love that last question because it gives everyone that aha moment, right? Thank you all so very much for coming. We are butting right up against the 1 o'clock hour, and thanks to all the listeners and viewers as well. As a reminder, tomorrow evening, starting at 5 o'clock, is the Sunny Point Conference Center. They'll be hosting the City Council Candidate Forum. We do have room. The room will be capped at 60 people. No food will be served, so there is room for walk-in. It would be nice if you could make a reservation, but I don't know why people are not making reservations lately. So show up, Sunny Point Conference Center tomorrow, City Council Candidate Forum starting at 5 o'clock. There will be no host beverages available. And again, we will have questions from the community. Also, on October 7th, we will be having a Zoom chamber lunch, and we'll also be offering a lunch special delivery available from a local restaurant. So how cool is that, trying to support local businesses? It'll be on October 7th, ballot measure 1. And then later in October, Dan, you'll be on the hot seat. I'll get with you on a date. So thank you all so very much for coming. Get out and vote. And thank you to the candidates for your willingness to serve our community.
Early voting open from now until October 7th.
Yes, and early voting is open right now until October 5th.
Thank you guys so much.
zoomed out.
Very nice.
Powerlifting, we just,
I
you almost
did not
have you
know
out of
that.
this chair.
Yeah.
I almost fell over.
Yeah.
Very cool.
No, I